Welcome to today's podcast. Dustin and I are excited to have you join in and listen into this conversation. It's been a continuation of some of the topics we've been contemplating these last few episodes about being in the present moment, our purpose, um, the reflections we get from our life of what that purpose is, releasing baggage as we discover it and find our barriers and things in life that are holding us back, and continually trying to focus on a abundance mindset, a growth mindset, to see what we can and have learned from this life. And so today our topic kind of bounces around, really within that field of conversation, and reflecting on our lives to this point and how much they've altered in the last 10, 15 years, and become a lot healthier, a lot more internally supportive of ourselves, and then because of that, more supportive of those around us, more able to be in this present moment, sharing ourselves authentically in a very, I don't know how to best say it, but just a way that nourishes ourselves as we connect to life and those around us. And we touch on this idea of failure, and how much the fear or anger can be motivators in life and hold us back from connecting with the present moment, hold us back from allowing ourselves to see that we actually are on our journey, we are on our path, and that the most beautiful, valuable moments of this life are most often found in the present moment of being, and not this idea that a lot of us falsely have, that it's in the achieving of this destination or arriving at some certain point in your life. Like, those are great, important moments, but they're just moments surrounded by the being of the rest of our life, and all the steps it took us to get to any particular destination. And kind of later in the podcast, actually talk about how similar that is to the idea of this kind of comic book that's written on a different sketch on each page. Flipbook, I think, is what we called them growing up. And where they have a different image on every page, and you flip through it. And as you flip quickly through it, a scene plays out, and you get to see an action or a becoming of somebody. And I think our lives are very similar to that. So we're excited to connect today and welcome you into this. I'm excited to hear what resonates, what corresponds to how you've experienced life, and understanding that, absolutely still growing. And even when we dissect this moment of our life, there's so much still to come that we don't know, haven't seen yet. And just enjoying the openness and excitement we've found to allow that to come as it will, and look forward to this next moment expectantly. So with that, we'll jump right into it. Um, like, failure is such a ridiculous idea. Like, if it didn't kill you, um, you can try again. Like,
Yeah.
and if it kills you, like, I'd posit that, like, energetically, you'll get another chance. Like, try again. Like, maybe not in that physical body, but
Yeah.
um, and that's, I don't know. It's just, that's so interesting to me. That's just gotten lighter and lighter for me. Like, if
Same.
I can find food and
Yeah.
I wake up in the morning, it's like,
Yeah.
I got a new ticket. Like, I get to try again. I get to whatever that thing is, or a million different things. I don't know. I really think that's fascinating. How so many of my barriers and hills were completely contrived in my head over just like, you don't have X to be able to do that. And I'm just like, that is so silly. Um, like, if it's not connection, you can meet those people. Like, money is not complicated to make. Like, relationships I think are the most complex thing in our universe, as
Yeah.
far as like us navigating. Um, it's
I
pretty
love
cool.
how organic this stream of consciousness, and I'm wondering if this is going to be kind of a fun free for all episode. Um, because I love what you shared, and it's the same. I believe for me, I used to fear failure
Mm.
so much. It's hard to articulate how much I feared it.
I
Like it
know.
was
It's uncomfortable
paralyzing.
to articulate.
I
Yeah.
know it's like, ugh. Like, I don't want to go back there, but it was terrifying.
Hmm.
Whether the fear of rejection, the fear of what happens when vulnerability might go wrong if I open up to somebody, the fear
Hmm.
of failing, the fear of not getting 100% satisfaction from a client X, Y, Z, just that fear of failure. And through a kaleidoscope of reasons and growths and tools and things, to your point, like I was listening to an episode, Michael Jordan being interviewed, and I think the other guy now, he's the one of the top basketball players in the league in the NBA. Short guy, what's his name? He plays for the Warriors. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Hurry,
Curry, Stephen Curry, or
Steph.
Steph Curry. And it's Steph Curry and Michael Jordan, and they're talking about success versus failure and being competitive. And it was just like, I mean, there's so many examples, but this one pops out where like Michael Jordan's like, I hate failure. I hate it. He's like, I'm the most competitive person I know. And Steph was like, yeah, I hate it. And then Michael Jordan immediately goes, but I respect it because I wouldn't have wins or successes without it. And it's taught me everything I know. And it's forced me into learning and discipline and getting better. I respect the failures. I hate them, but I respect them because he's like, that dichotomy. And I think there's an element there, but like to me, that just like stream of consciousness comes up as a powerful moment that I can remember in this topic. For me though, I don't hate failure. I used to. I feared it and I hated it. I don't. It's almost like, granted, different areas of life has a different potency still, but um, I mean, I feel like in some ways, it's like I don't even care. I don't even care. It's like I think there's a direct correlation of fear having less and less and fear of the failure having less of an impact. You just don't care, and I think there's a correlation of caring less what people think, especially those that you don't know, and those that if they did think something and it just wouldn't be in alignment with my values because I wouldn't care, it wouldn't have an impact on it. And being selective about that. So it's freedom. Like you said, getting out of the matrix, such a popular concept now, but it's freedom. Because then if you're not afraid of failure and you respect it and you realize all the silver linings and the inevitable requirement of that to be a part of growth, it isn't just a reframe. Like you need it. It will happen. Failure. But then you start to understand it as a friend and it's just data, it's input, it becomes a friend of like, I just don't care because there's nothing to fear because you're going to give me something if I interact with you in a certain way. And that certain way I think is a positive embracing of the humility that I will always have something to learn. Um so I love that, man. I mean, there's so many analogies and metaphors I can go off of, but I love that you bring that up because it's a really profound thing to embody. To embody, like you and I both, it's just like I feel like every day, every time I talk to you, we're both a little bit more comfortable with that. I think it's beautiful.
I do too. It's an interesting
Yeah.
paradigm, I think, for a lot of people because, and it was for me too before being here. The idea of like there not being as much sting or is driven by, anger or fear or something. I think it's really easy when those still are motivating factors in someone's life to say like, well, how would I be engaged with life? How do I have that edge? How do I show up if that's not uncomfortable or I'm not running from that or whatever? And I think it's been really different than I expected it to be. Um,
Hmm.
because being in the moment and not reacting or being driven by, obviously there's a myriad of things you could be driven by, but very commonly in our race it seems to be like fear and anger are two of the most motivating negative emotions that we experience.
Oh yeah.
um the ones that the majority of us allow uh to drive an immense amount of decisions, actions, life choices. And the further I get away from those, and I think what I mean by that is the more I release them, don't have attachment to it, because it absolutely still have the capacity for fear and anger, and in those two still come up. I just don't hold them in the same way I used to.
Yeah.
They don't really reside in me. They occur as emotions to situations, and then my intent is to honor them when they're there, and then to release them um as soon as is applicable, to learning a lesson. Because I do think, as you said, there's lessons with them. They're not wrong. Um, it's just what we do with them. But I have found being in the present moment incredibly full, incredibly clear, incredibly motivating. Like I haven't felt like I lack an edge because I'm not, driven by this fear of my own failure as I used to be, or I lack an edge because I'm trying to be the very best at the expense of the people around me. Like I need to be standing on their shoulders, like literally standing on them, not them lifting me up, not that idea of like a mentorship, but like, no, I need to be the best. I need to be on top of these people. And it's just like um I don't miss any of that. And I still feel incredibly driven. I think I still show up in my world that way. Um I don't know many people who know me that would describe me as um, not engaged or not trying to achieve things or build something. Um, and so I don't know. That's a really interesting conundrum to me. It The way that being at peace, the way that being present, being receiving and okay, and I guess Zen is a word that used loosely, like kind of that idea. Um, has connotations of like not actually being connected at the moment or just not really caring what's going on. And I don't think that's really a very clear explanation of it. It's just not being attached to what is happening or the outcome.
Yeah, it reminds me more of like the Buddhist, the middle way, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think you brought up another good point that we learned in the NLP community is the massive difference between move away from values and move towards. Fear and anger are the biggest move away from values typically, but I think as the fear of failure disintegrates, the amount of anger in us becomes less potent more and more, and we feel it, let it go, whatever it is. And it's like there's just a resting in the move toward values of what do I want, and let me just daily go towards that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I fail, so what? I kind of don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to keep going that way. And if my values change, cool, I'll go this way a little bit. And if my values then change again, cool, I'll go that way a little bit. And just, I to me, I think it all really comes down to a quote I heard that I think it was a Stoic. I don't know, maybe it was a Greek philosopher. It was Heraclides might have said this. I'm not sure, but I don't even know if that's the right name. Us humans should find our purpose. Like the number one goal in life as a human being is to find your purpose. And then immediately after you find it, start giving it away. And I think to me, that's very aligned with what we're talking about. When you find that, or you at least know you're getting closer to it, it makes all the inevitable suffering of life that much more meaningful, that much more tolerable, that much more okay and less of a big deal. And we're going to have our moments. That's for damn sure. We're human, but I think it just keeps going in the right direction if it's like, hey, move towards my purpose. Like move towards values and purpose or like best friends and cousins and distant relatives. And it's like, cool. Because then it's all just pulling you.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to, I don't even know how to finish that. It just pulls you. And I think that's a beautiful thing that is hard to articulate the profound nature of it because it's such a simple idea. And if you haven't found it, it's hard to understand. I can go a lot further on that, but I'm curious what thoughts are coming up for you.
I think I was just thinking in line with that and agreeing, like just I guess a lot of the things we talk about and a lot of things that we are fascinated about in life in the spiritual and emotional realms just inherently are really hard to nail down linguistically, that are really hard to uh, be able to communicate the full shape of something until it's experienced by somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fascinating reality to me along this journey too, is how different where I am is than where I was, and how different it actually feels than I thought it would feel when I was outside of it.
Mm.
Saying that, still well knowing that I am still on this journey, and there are there are layers to this that I've yet to experience, and that's really
Yeah.
exciting to me too. Like
Yeah.
there's more. I think there is more tranquility, peace, abundance, connection, excitement. There's more of that than I haven't experienced than I have yet. And so like I feel like I'm starting to just taste and experience this world now. And there's so much more.
Mm.
It's just curious. Anytime we stop along our path and like look at where we are and looking back, because the future is just unknown, and it inherently will always be that. And anything I think about it now is it's helpful for this moment to move forward, but it won't be what I actually experience when I am there. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I think another really fascinating, intriguing thing about our journeys here, and the how fun it is to contemplate that, think about that, be excited about it, participate in it, with the absence of being terrified about how it might turn out, with the absence of being, you know,
Yeah.
angry at all the people that force my life to be this way that it is.
Hmm.
And just the freedom and excitement um to look forward to that regardless of the bumps that will be, and some of them may be more extreme than I could imagine. I don't know, but I do know from what I've learned that I'm capable of being present in that moment too, regardless of what it is. Um, will I show up that way? I don't know, but I know that I'm capable of it. I'll learn from it, one way or the other.
I like that, man. Yeah, it's a good, I think, humbleness in what you just shared. Yeah, it brought up two things. One is something I experienced on Friday, which I gave you a recap of
Mm.
before, how that ties into purpose. But just another idea, memory of just literally yesterday, referencing our last podcast topic of yesterday. For months, it was like just the most tired I've been. I just felt like I felt kind of off. I was just like, it's so rare in the last, I don't know, 6 months or something. I just was like, I'm like, I don't know. I think I slept 7 hours, typically closer to 8. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just tired. And, applying literally what we just talked about on the episode is like, that little voice was like, don't go work out today, Dustin. Take it easy. Do this. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, literally, just because it's like a habit of mine and it's part of like getting my character now. But I also thought of our podcast episode. And I was like, ooh, okay. All right, man, you're gonna go in the cold plunge a little bit longer just because you don't want to. You're gonna finish all your coffee. You're gonna go to the gym, and now you're gonna lift deadlift, which is the hardest thing, just because you don't want to do it. And I literally, like, me as a soul directed my mind, and like a dog was like, sit. I hear you. You can bark, but you're gonna sit right now. I literally hit a lifetime PR on deadlift yesterday,
Nice.
and like that was a prime example of that 20% where it's so hard is where you get 80% of the magic. And it was just another, like, thank you, God. There it is, right there. And I felt great, and like my whole day shifted. Um, and so, anyways, I wanted to share that because I feel like it's, I don't know, it just came up and it was exciting to share. Uh, but back to the purpose thing, for me, I think so many humans are trying to get confidence. You know, like I lacked confidence most of my life, and I think when you find purpose, which is getting still, facing pain, facing your negative emotions, facing your limiting beliefs, working through them, sitting with discomfort, feeling unconditionally, having discipline, putting effort in, showing up, all that stuff, and you find your purpose, willing to take risks and, face the unknown, confidence, so much confidence comes from self-discipline because then you get self-respect and self-esteem and finding your purpose and how those all come together. It's like you're just confident. There's just a level of confidence that no one can take away from you because you're connected with source or God or whatever you believe in. And on Friday, I had the most beautiful thing happen where in the past, I would have been very hurt, very defensive, and I literally had an opportunity to change someone's life who was very disbelieving of what I was saying that I do, what I stand for, what my passion and purpose is in life. And, I tapped into my intuitive gifts, and I looked in her eyes and I read her soul. And she just, after like saying she thought I was bullshitting and everything I was saying was just, kind of like just crap, like you're blowing smoke up my ass. And there's a nuance here that was so cool. And that's when I like looked up several times. But the first time I looked up at the moon, like I was telling you, and it was like I was aware in the moment. I faced the discomfort, the challenge, the disbelief, the sensory acuity kind of put off. There was a lot of stuff that was uncomfortable. And it was like, this is nothing personal to me. I know what I stand for. I know who I am. I know me as a soul. I know my purpose. And another sentient being doesn't understand what I'm communicating. That's okay because I know what's true. And that awareness in that moment is like, it was on a much higher level than I would be a norm for me of that vulnerable, because it's very, very vulnerable. Like, she asked me what I did for a living. And I gave a very vulnerable, deep answer to that. And I got met with not the nicest response. And then I proceeded to, after having read her soul, told her what I saw. And she just started crying. And it was like that little girl that her soul came out. She came out. And I told her, I was like, there you are. I was like, I don't know who the heck has been here the whole evening, but now what I felt I wasn't seeing, now I see it. Thank you for showing up tonight. And it was, she just, she's like, you changed my life. And it was like a breadcrumb of what I believe 5, 10, 20 years from now, I'm going to manifest more of. And what I feel my purpose is to like open, see, let this, like, see the soul, see the heart, let them know I've seen it. And in a safe space of love and compassion, like mirror that back to them and let them know that that is so beautiful. And then that unlocks, I think, what is possible: hope, safety, inspiration, motivation, like self-respect, self-love, all these things kind of, and it's just so nourishing. It's like someone hugging your soul or something. And I feel like that's my purpose in this life, is to do that for as many people as I possibly can. And so in the face of a reasonable amount of discomfort, I just calmly was like, cool. Again, I don't care if I fail or if I'm wrong, but here's what I'm picking up by looking into this woman's like soul essentially through her eyes. And it was so profound. I've been riding that wave for like ever since then. And it's something to me where if I go back years, like that would be such a foreign concept. You know, all the suffering I've gone through and all the self-confidence issues and all the shit that I've gone through, that would have been like, what are you talking about? That what? That's part of my purpose? You kidding me? That doesn't make any sense. Um, so, but I think there's one last thing I want to share here too that I want to see what you think about because I think this is profound. And Denzel Washington's talked about it in a famous speech he did where he said, like that thought in your mind or that feeling you have that you should achieve some dream, that is God's proof to you that it is destined for you because you have that and other people don't. So do everything you can to achieve it. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And to me, there were breadcrumbs, like I told you about the Tony Robbins movie. And when the Tony Robbins documentary came out, I'm Not Your Guru, from a soul level, I just broke down in front of my friends and started bawling. And it made no sense, but it was like something about my purpose, my soul, me and him, which seems crazy because I was depressed, I was lost. And he's like one of the best, breakthrough coaches in the world. And he's like worked with presidents and world leaders and Mother Teresa and stuff. And I'm like, how, from an ego perspective, it was almost embarrassing and funny. It was almost pathetic. It was like, what? But my soul was like, there's something there. It was a breadcrumb. And I feel like us as humans have that. Most of us, a lot of us, where there's just this dream, there's this thing, as crazy as it sounds, as absurd or arrogant as it might seem. You have this like, huh. And it may come up more than once. It may come up with a frequency of like, you're supposed to do something like that. And I think that is an under-discussed and very profound part of the human experience. And I'd love to see what you think about that, if you've ever had that, like anything and everything that comes up for you on that.
Great question. It triggers a lot of different thoughts in my head. I think first kind of go back to different ways I've viewed life. I think early on, teenage years, and I think both of us dealt with the people pleasing or giving an exceptional amount of weight to our perceived and what other people thought of us, not even necessarily what they actually thought of us. We have no idea. Still don't. Never will.
Thought they would think,
what they thought they were thinking of us. And I know that's a lot of humans fall in that camp. It's not everyone. We all struggle with things, but I know this is a common one for a lot of people. So as I think about that and just how much I was contorting or contriving myself to meet these different imagined things that other people thought about me, I did have dreams as a kid. There were things I wanted to pursue, wanted to be, and I remember how often I filtered those ideas through, what would somebody think about me if I was that? How would this person respond to me if I did that? And based on these made up scenarios in my head, I would either decide that was a good dream for me or not a good dream or worth pursuing or not worth putting energy into. And I think that's all almost comical at this point. And I learned so much from it. Not experiences would like to repeat or replicate the immense I think immense weight of self-doubt and shame and fear that I carried and experienced on a very consistent basis. And I'm really, it's neat to be at a place that I literally can laugh at that, not in judgment, but just like, wow, like it was so intense and I didn't know another way. that was at that time in that moment like what I thought I needed to be doing, and those the emotions I needed to experience to participate with that point
Yeah.
in my life. But it really it was pretty rare that I had a dream that I actually bought into. And by that I meant that I that I believed I was capable of
Like
achieving or
allowed yourself
experiencing.
to be like, huh, I can do that. Okay.
I think there were a ton of dreams to be like, yeah, that would be really cool if
Yeah.
there just wasn't really a connection where I could see myself in that. It'd be like, that
Okay.
would be really neat, but that's not built for me, or I'm not built for that, or just different ideas like that.
Okay.
And then fast forward to now and like kind of where we started this podcast, like just this idea that there's literally, I don't think there's anything we can't do. Um, I think there are things, physical paths, becoming an astronaut, certain things that will be harder than others just because of the path to get there, um, or longer. Maybe not even necessarily harder. There's more things or boxes that need to be checked off along certain paths than there are others
Yeah.
uh, in this world. But it all, I feel very capable of anything, and I think that's pretty wild, and not and no real pressure to do anything that doesn't really align and light me up. And the things that do, uh, serving others, helping others, learning, um, traveling while helping others, I think is a huge thing for me. Like I've really enjoyed. That's one aspect of coaching I've really liked, is just the ability to participate in different people's lives when I am traveling abroad and stuff. There's just you meet a whole different um, group of people than I would have had a chance to meet if I'd stayed in the same place. And
Yeah.
obviously, internet has changed a lot of that, and so I think that's really really neat. Um, but there's a lot of I think back to some of the dreams I had as a kid, and I feel very capable of pursuing that. And I think that's maybe somewhere I got lost as a kid too when I thought about dreams, and maybe not even as a kid, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Um, was I got so focused on that end destination of what's it look like being X that I didn't realize so much my excitement and so much my draw toward it was becoming that thing.
Totally.
And the path to being,
Yeah.
uh, a professional race car driver or like whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
That journey in becoming the person who does that
Yeah.
is what is fascinating. Is the
Yeah.
the meat of life, and I think that shifted so much and taken so much pressure off this in destination thing. And maybe that's what I'm talking about when I feel capable of trying to move toward any of these different dreams. Like I don't know what the end product ends up being. I don't know, like let's say it was an astronaut. I don't know that that means I set foot on another planet at any point,
Mm.
but I know I could pursue the path of becoming that. Um, and, depending on the time I have on this planet, like how far I would get along that. And that feels so capable and open. Um, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I just hearing you say that inspired another thought in me of adding to what you said about the journey. It's the journey, and I think a nuance of that for me in the things I have achieved in a sense of even honestly this morning leaving the gym to come here to the office to do the podcast with you is I had a moment of I think it's like it was hard for me to understand what you're saying like years ago when I heard all these motivational speakers and people like and I'm like, yeah, well that sounds nice on paper, but I don't really understand that. Like I want the result. Like what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a moment of leaving the gym and I saw literally because I've gained muscle, I saw myself in the mirror today like and it's not like I was doing the whole pose thing. I took off my shirt to change and I saw myself and it was like, whoa, that's how I envisioned myself like 9 months ago. And I think here's the really cool piece about this with any dream or any achievement someone's saying, whether it's like, oh, okay, I'm like on stage, like celebrating, and I gave a speech to 10,000 people or whatever. It's like the moment that it happens, that's literally not what makes you happy or fulfilled, because it's such a fleeting moment. And you could go do that and act, and literally someone that just gave a speech could be like, hey, here's a minute, go ahead, 10,000. You could have the moment, leave the stage. You wouldn't get what you wanted. It's the moment of like when I saw myself in the mirror and then I was driving here and I said, oh my God, all the suffering, all the discipline, all the cold plunges, all the tired mornings, all the weightlifting, all the wrist pain, all the near injuries, all the like sore muscles, all the supplements, the protein, the food, the sleep, the water intake, everything. My body, mind, soul, and heart are stronger. I'm a different being. And that's just a glimpse to mirror all that back to me. And all that is what gives me fulfillment and makes me happy. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if that's what you were thinking when you said that, but to me, it's a clear example that was so foreign to me for most of my life of what that translated to, or what it would translate to for me, of what it really means. Like, the journey is the cool thing, because then you're literally upgraded, and you're from your core, from inside out, can manifest more of what you were dreaming of, and then go higher. Like, you have become that. That's the gift. Everything else is just a three-dimensional, I think, external mirage or mirror of what we need to become to even manifest it. And I think there's a lot of cool nuances. Those are just mine. I'm sure people have a lot of other ways to describe that, but that's how it shows up for me, and that's fuel to get up in the morning. That's like, it's joy.
That's really, I appreciate that viewpoint of it too, because that's a mixture of how I understood what you're saying was a mixture of what I was saying with that.
Okay.
And I think it is amazing once we don't have the attachment to like this end project that allows us to show up and enjoy the becoming, like the last 9 months for you, specifically to this story, participating in caring for your body in that way. And then, but you obviously you had that goal in mind, but you also fell in love with the act of doing it, the act of being. Like, you
Yeah.
love the cold plunge, you love the
Yeah.
gym, like you love
Even
the
when it
soreness,
sucks.
you
I
love
love when
the
I'm done.
you love when you're done. Like,
I don't always love
um,
it.
but you've connected to it and you love the idea of it too. Like,
Yeah.
it is true that like there are moments within that are absolutely uncomfortable. A lot of them.
Yeah.
Um, before the cold plunge, like that's for me like that, and that may change at some point, but that's still a very intense moment, knowing that I'm stepping into something that it's not going to be a long time, but it will be very uncomfortable for a period of time.
Yeah.
Um, and I always just have a pause like before that happens, and I think those might just be part of the journey, and those things change. What gives us friction
Mm.
shifts and changes as we adapt and
Yeah.
um, get connected with it. But I think there's so much. It's so easy when we think about destination based stuff for it to
Mhm.
be a black and white. It's like you're not that thing until you are that thing. Like, you're not a public speaker until you've
Yeah.
been on a stage with whatever number of people is in your head. 1,000. Well,
Yeah.
that's not enough for me to, 10,000 for some, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And we're so cruel
Mm.
to ourselves internally, to our
Mm.
dreams. And there's this, the much kinder approach internally is that becoming one. It is a spectrum of allowing to be this thing
Yeah.
and realizing like that starts when we start, participating in that activity.
Yep.
That scale starts to change. It makes me think of those. I haven't seen one in a long time, but you remember like Flipbook comic books when we were kids? There's like a different picture on every page, but you flip through it and
Oh, it's like
it's like an
moving as you.
animation. Everything's
Yeah.
like moving. And I think our lives
Ooh.
are so much like that.
Well
Um,
said.
like You look at any single one of those pages, you're
Ooh.
just like, oh, this thing is not that thing. And you're like,
It's like a
fucking keep flipping.
yeah,
Yeah,
micro
seriously, it's like
change.
these micro changes through life. And at
Wow,
the
well
end, it's
said.
this, you know, with this
Hmm.
incredible reality of our memory and the ability to look back, like, depending on the state we're in, we get to see this becoming this movie, uh, this thing that started as a helpless, lump with with flexible bones and like whatever else turn into to whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that's just it's pretty amazing. But I really like the idea of like that flip book and just um how stuck on one of the individual pages or few of the pages that we get. And you even look at those, like the 10 or 15 pages, if you just take those, like there's not much change in between the first character and 20 pages later. But 100 pages later,
yeah,
200 pages later, it's a whole different thing. Like it's a different universe that person's even in. And
yeah,
I think that's a fun way to think about our own lives and try to take it in perspective and not have attachment to the page we're on. Um,
amen.
and know this day is just it's one that links to hundreds, if not millions, of others moments in our time, and it's how incapable we are for so much of our lives often to see the binding in the book, to see the other pages, to see the much greater reality of what is our existence or our time here. And I think that's a pretty open way for me to think about it, an empowering way. Um, and it's light too, because all those books in my head were fun and like comics and stuff too. And it's just like this is an adventure, and I'm making these tiny little adjustments every day, um, and they're really not that tiny, in the scope of things. It's just they don't encapsulated. We don't get to see their effect, um,
Yeah.
which makes that not a very healthy way to think. Get out of that capsule. Get out of that short frame. It's not supportive.
And it's literally a lie.
Mm,
It's like the ignorance of the mind lying to us as a
mm.
consciousness, perceiving what our mind's doing. Like you said that so well. Like I want to be 200 pages from now, but I'm on page one. Uh, that is it's I can tear that apart so many ways. It's like a lie to even think that you don't have to go through those 199. It's just false. It's silly. It's just absurd. And it's like let that go. You're gonna be probably way happier on page 100, realizing how far you've come and all the work and and sacrifice you had to put in. Like that's the gold, you know. And anyways, but I know we got to wrap up. I'm in love with this episode, and uh uh that I just feel nourished. So thank you. I'm really happy right now with what
Yeah,
we
that was fun,
discussed.
man.
It's freaking
Thanks for
awesome.
sharing your story and just excited about exactly where we are right now. Like this is I mean, even
Yeah.
this podcast thing, I think the shape of what it would be and what it is, I think it continues to change. It's very different than, the page one that we started this on. Like
Oh
there's been
yeah.
a bunch of micro movements
Oh yeah.
and they've been great for us, Like
Yeah.
we'll see what this if whatever this ends up being, but
Mm.
this has been a neat side story in our lives too. So grateful for the time, man. We'll talk soon.
Amen, brother. Take care.